kept, even in literature, a balance between the two. At times, the Wu, the warriors, the army general fighting the enemy was privileged. Okay, when China was still in its clan reformation, there was a continuous fighting among clans, and it had to impose, it had to fight the enemies. So there was slight privilege toward the military. I mean, they didn't like warriors, fighters, but they also knew they couldn't do without this. So let's still use them and let's kind of not block them. They tried to prohibit the use of weapons, but they failed miserably because the warriors at the time were useful. And there was also an important class, the Shi, noble class. They were good at riding horses and throwing archery. They tried to civilize learning Chinese, still were portrayed as warriors, even emperors with an arch, riding a horse. So, what has to do with our Western history of martial arts? It has to do because when the this doesn't apply only to martial arts, applies also to those branches of Chinese culture working with the body. Okay? So they didn't have the same kind of approach towards Daojiao, the Chinese practices of Taoism, but they consider those practices like folk religion, something unworthy, based on superstitions, not scientific, not we don't concoct material in the body. So there was a combination of we don't promote martial arts, and we also don't consider worth of studying or really or presenting those practices. This was perfect marriage. From one side, the Chinese, they don't like martial arts, they don't like physical practices, they don't like Taoist practice of nourishing the body. And on the other side, the Western, who privilege the mind, privilege the spiritual achievements, and we don't do body. So what happens? It happens that the first man I'm going to talk about, John DOJO, with the medical approach, was a surgeon. It's a funny case because he wrote in, when is that? 1895, and he was a surgeon, he went to China, and what he was searching for, he was not happy with the way doctors were treating the body, healing the body by dissecting, by dismantling. He wanted to search for something more natural. So learn Chinese, go to China, London Missionary Society, and start to read about natural remedies, drinking healing beverages, and search for something that is more natural indeed. And what he says, he said, what's this? This was a document left by French missionaries, Le Mémoire sur les Chinois, written by Pierre-Martial Cibot, who write about these things. And John DOJO said exactly this. So continues this curiosity, very knows about these things, although people don't talk about it, so what it is. In his work, John DOJO, he talks about, what is it? Kung Fu or medical gymnastics. Kung Fu? I don't see any fighting system here. I see people stretching and sitting and stretching the arms, stretching the legs. So he saw a series of practices to help longevity, to heal the body without dissetting, without opening it. He was very interested. He was very interested because for due to his education, he has read about Greek culture. He has read about the ancient athletes, the paideia, a noble achievement in Greek culture. And suddenly sees these people, and is very curious about what they do. He wants to find out more about how to extend life, to prolong life, to cure disease, to improve the lifestyle. In his article, in his book, also write about chronic diseases. And he started translating figures, translating descriptions on the side, positions, instructions, still based on this concept. What is the qi. And he doesn't actually know how to translate the qi. and I read about this kind of a cultural barriers also in Bachelor. So sinologists struggle to translate it properly when it comes to religion, when it comes to Chinese practice of longevity, when it comes to martial art, when it comes to acupuncture. We're still there. More subtly, what strikes me is that John DOJO, in page 97 of his work, actually writes something that reminds me that he was still, although he was very curious about not dissecting the body, but leaving the body alone and promoting the body, but still think in terms of dualism, in terms of senses are not our friends. Okay? And he writes, Kung Fu is a real exercise of religion, which, in curing the body of its infirmities, frees the soul from servitude of the senses. We are completely against the assumption of the Chinese practice where actually the senses are our allies, not our servants. It's the opposite. But I see how John DOJO was struggling and fighting with himself with the curiosity of, positive curiosity of searching for a method to heal the body without disturbing it, and the other one is education, and we're fighting inside himself. Okay? He had to publish, and he says that the editor is pushing me to publish, so I cannot dig any further, I cannot improve the research, I cannot explain better how it works, this Kung Fu, but it's something worthy, and he leaves it there, doesn't go any further. Shame. Second approach, almost on the same line, but completely different, it's Herbert Giles. By the way, John DOJO was Scottish. Herbert Giles is English, British. Herbert Giles is mostly known to the sinological world for having created, together with Mr. Wade, a transcriptional method, transliterating method, which is, there is Chinese language, non-alphabetic language, there is alphabetic language. I need to transport the word Qi or Tai Chi or Wushu from non-alphabetic into alphabetic. How do I do that? He, together with Wade, created a system to transliterating the Chinese. So he's mostly known to sinologists for creating the Wade-Giles system of transliterating. That's why he's famous, he's wrote books about history. My interest in Giles, what is it? It's because he looked at those parts of Chinese civilization which were not, strictly speaking, related to religion, which was very fashionable at that time. The problem is, he looked at Chinese martial art, he doesn't even know how to classify it, he said Chinese boxing, okay? So he presents Chinese martial art as a sports or performance or athletic. Both John DOJO and Giles see also martial art as a kind of advanced fighting system. And in his work, Homo Jiu-Jitsu, Herbert Giles indeed presents this. What has this to do with martial art? It has to do. Because this is the Jiao Di Tu, the illustration of the Jiao Di. What is Jiao Di? It's one of the first forms of Chinese fighting. Fighting for combat? No. Was Chinese fighting for ritual, for celebrating a victory over another state? Parties, towns, festivals, when you celebrate something. So he started to give a picture of Chinese martial art, not just as a combat, also as a performance. And this was something that came on the Han Dynasty, Zhou Dynasty, Han Dynasty, to celebrate a victory over the opponent. So I'm not surprised that still today we study martial art as an advance, as a performance, as a training tool, not just as a combat system. Yes, Giles also goes on talking about the difference between the system, external, internal, Waijia, Naijia, but he doesn't explain this. Once again, it's too taken by publishing, and it's too complicated. He just simply reports what has been said. Continuation. The historical assumption doesn't get discussed and criticized and changed. Okay? How much do I have left?
Like 3 minutes.
Okay. This is probably what has Giles in mind. Pancratium, boxing, the old stuff. That's what he was trying to see, but he stumbled into this different way to present a fighting for celebrating and performing. And things haven't changed more recently, unfortunately. What happened is that we have what I call the pseudo-scientific approach. This is an image of Joseph Needham, better known within sinology studies because of his publications, a huge publication, Science and Civilization in China, okay, mid-90s, 1950 something. I can't comment too much on him, and I can't comment certainly on the other things he studied about Chinese culture. What I can comment is that he's been a little bit pushing forward the studies, a little bit very naive, and yes, naive. He talks about things that can be a little bit trendy when he talks about max combustion and the deadly touch or acupuncture, without digging into what is it, how does it work. He says these things need further research, according to tradition, but he never applied his critical, he was a biochemist, his critical scientist approach to these things was exciting, probably sexy, but nothing, it didn't go any further in explaining how things work. He quotes Giles, he quotes Zhu Zheng, and he actually says that he comes from a Taoist branch of practice, could is Kung Fu, Tai Chi or Karate. So he continues the history without digging into how that actually works. Is a religion, is a practice, it's a combat system, it's all together and it's none of them. Because when you read this stuff, you have lots of names, Japanese name, Chinese name all together, and you don't have a clear image of what's going on. So to conclude, I have to thank these three people because of course they started a discourse of martial arts, although very scanty, kind of without a proper logical line. We need to give them credit, and there is a common thread on all of them. The idea of martial art practice trained as a gymnastic for the purpose of improving his body health and its therapeutic. Is it what we do today? Has it restored the balance between Wen and Wu? Has it given more prominence to Wen, so have the literati won the battle by discarding this combative side?